Here we go. Chapter 3. This is called the Good Fishing Day. Well, let's recap a little bit. So far we know that Grimalkin, who is was given the name by a German boy by the name of Jacob, was the mother's name, the cat's mother's name. It was a girl's name, but they gave it to the black cat, now this new kitten called Grimalkin, okay? And so it's something that I want you to be paying attention to as we read chapter 3. Here we go. There was a kind of magic in the way Grimalkin grew. His fur began to fluff out and soft and black and shining, and his tail became thick and uncommonly long. His body waxed strong and very nimble. In other words, he could jump around and do a lot of cool things. And it was like magic the way he took possession of Dorlatch Inn. Now remember, boys and girls, Dorlatch Inn is the place where these people lived. Almost as soon as Elmira and her kittens were returned to the barn, he began to look after things. Indoors and out, he set his own tasks. If one of the hound dogs so much as showed his nose in the parlor, Grimalkin cuffed him smartly and sent him yammering out of the door. If the chickens got into Mama's kitchen garden, it was Grimalkin who chased them out. He also took care of the groundhogs and the rabbits and the snakes. There were the mice holes to watch too, and the cows to bring in. He not only helped them round them up, he also thought it was wise to be on hand during the milking process. No matter who did the milking, John or Thomas or Samuel or Joseph or even Papa, he would squirt some of the fresh milk right into Grimalkin's mouth. Grimalkin had to be there to catch it. Never was a cat so busy, nor so independent. He slept where he pleased, on the candle shelf or in the drawers atop Mama's newly spun cloth or on Papa's basket-bottom chair. But if the weather was cold, he liked to toast his bones before the fire or crawl into bed with Benjamin. Often in the dead of night when the moon was full, he would take it into his head to go hunting. And begin as clever as he was independent, and being as clever as he was independent, he asked no one to let him out. With one paw, he would lift the door latch as neatly as if he had 4 fingers and a thumb. In no time at all, Grimalkin was everyone's pet. Papa and Benjamin's 4 brothers liked him because he was a great ratter and mouser. Mama and Benjamin's 4 sisters liked him because, as Mama often said, a more mannerly cat thee would not find anywhere. What other cat in all the province wipes his paws on the doormat before entering the kitchen? That's the kind of cat I want. Polite and tidy, she added with a bright nod. Even Nanny Ludi, Papa's big mare like Grimalkin, she would sleep standing if Grimalkin chose to lie on her bed of straw. Yet, Grimalkin treated Natty Ludi as if he were a king and she was his slave. If he leaped onto her back to warm his paws, one would have thought by the airs he put on that he was doing her quite a favor. As for the guests who came and went, Grimalkin openly disapproved them. After investigating them with her nose, he left them strictly alone, and when their carts rattled out of the inn yard, he helped chase them on their way and then flew back to the inn as if to say, at last, I have the family all to myself. But if he felt this way toward the family, he treated Benjamin almost as if he knew that Benjamin had saved his life. There was nothing he would not do for Benjamin. He would jump through a barrel hoop for him. He would roll over when told. He would box. He would play hide and seek and a fairly good game of catch and toss. But more than all of this, he was a partner in everything that Benjamin did. and such an understanding grew up between them that strangers would remark on it. I vow and declare, they would say. Grimalkin's tail twitches with excitement, and he begins purring at the mere sound of Benjamin's voice. Now, I think all of you know that when a cat purrs, that means it is showing happiness. With that, these strangers did not know that was Benjamin and Grimalkin, that they could talk to each other almost as a person with a person. Grimalkin would prick his ears forward and listen gravely to each word of Benjamin's. And then he would make eager little mewing replies, his talk growing louder and louder until he felt certain that Benjamin understood. There was the day that Benjamin and Grimalkin were left alone to mind Sally. Sally was Benjamin's baby niece. It was a day made for fishing. The sky was overcast and gray, winds were gentle. For a whole hour, Benjamin had been sharpening a long pole. He was going to try spearing for trout the way his friends, the Indians, did. He had already promised Grimalkin a fishing trip, and with all the minnows he could eat. But just as Benjamin was tucking an apple and some Johnny cake into his shirt, he heard the cloppity-clop of a horse's hoofs. Some people say hooves. And then such a hubbub. Rachel, Benjamin's married sister, came flouncing into the house carrying baby Sally. "Oh, Mama," she cried, "I have been homesick for thee and Benjamin and everyone." Benjamin tried hard to look pleased, but in his mind's eye, he saw a trout jump out of the water with a silver splash. Mama made little cooing noises to the baby, and then she hung Rachel's hood and cloak on a peg as if she were company. "Well, Benjamin," she said, "run up to the front bedchamber and fetch down the cradle and let the little Scotch baby sleep in last night." With Grimalkin at his heels, Benjamin took the stairs 2 at a time. Sometimes when we take the stairs 2 at a time, it means that we're trying to get up someplace really quick. He returned breathless with a basket which looked like a great bird's nest on rockers. Grimalkin sat inside it looking enormously pleased with himself. "Come, Grimalkin," whispered Benjamin as he set the cradle down and began edging toward the door. "You, Benjamin," called Mama, "please, to fetch thy sisters. They will want to see our dear Sally." "Where are they, Mama?" asked Benjamin in despair. "They are gathering wild mint by the creek." "Oh, Benjamin," cried Rachel in her most pleading manner, "I long to be out there with them. If you were to mind Sally, would you mind watching her? Mama and I could have a little outing." Benjamin bit his lips. He did not mind fetching wood or water. He did not even mind cleaning out the hen house very much. But taking care of the baby on a good fishing day? No, thank you. At a sharp look from Mama, however, he sat down quickly. "Thank you, brother," smiled Rachel. "Here is the fly trap. Please to keep the flies away from Sally's face." But before Benjamin could say a word, he found himself face to face with the wailing Sally. The baby was crying. Oh, my goodness. "Why, she's mostly mouth," he said with disgust. Grimalkin's ears were thrown backward in disapproval. "Can't thee do something about this noise?" he seemed to ask. "Why, of course I can," replied Benjamin. "I can rock the cradle." Well, the crying stopped at once. The room grew so quiet that Benjamin fancied he could hear the bread rising. The minutes seemed like hours. The day was going to waste. Benjamin kept tiptoeing to the door to watch for Mama and Rachel. Guys, we are almost done. This is our last page. "Poor Grimalkin," he sighed. I promised you some minnows. And here we are, caught like insects in a web." He looked about the room. Suddenly his eyes fell on the wells of red ink and black ink on Papa's counter. Beside them lay a goose quill pen, a sandbox for blotting the ink, and a fresh sheet of paper. How smooth and clean the paper looks, thought Benjamin. Then he turned to see if the flies were bothering Sally. And at that precise moment, the baby happened to smile in her sleep. Why, Grimalkin, Benjamin cried, Sally is less funny looking when she smiles. She is quite fair. His fingers reached for the goose quill pen. I could draw her a picture, he said in amazement. I believe I could. Well, Grimalkin smoothed his whiskers against Benjamin's leg. Then he gazed up with mischievous green eyes. Well, why doesn't you do it? He purred as plainly as words. Who is to stop you? And that's the end of chapter 3. And here's a little picture, as you can see, really close. You see the pen that he wants to use to write. You see the baby sister. And then you see the black cat, Grimalkin. I hope you guys were paying attention. This story is actually getting pretty interesting. We'll be back tomorrow for some more. I'll talk to you soon.